China has missiles capable of sinking every American aircraft carrier in under 20 minutes. The Pentagon has confirmed it, and for years the United States Navy had no credible defense. Now America is testing a secret energy shield, a high-energy laser system designed to track and destroy missiles at the speed of light. Could this futuristic technology finally neutralize China's deadliest weapons before they strike? Join us as we uncover the details of the energy shield that the U.S. Navy is presently testing to neutralize China's threat. For 80 years, the aircraft carrier has been the ultimate symbol of American military power. No other nation has built them in the same numbers, operated them at the same scale, or projected force through them as effectively as the United States. At any given moment, the United States Navy operates 10 of these floating air bases, each one a city at sea, capable of launching dozens of combat aircraft over any ocean on the planet. They are the backbone of American foreign policy, the instrument through which Washington signals resolve, enforces no-fly zones, and responds to crises from the Persian Gulf to the South China Sea. And for decades, they were essentially untouchable. That is no longer true. China has spent 20 years building a specific category of weapon designed for one purpose: killing American aircraft carriers. And according to the Pentagon's own assessment, they have succeeded in creating an arsenal that represents a genuine existential threat to the most powerful naval platforms ever constructed. The threat has a name: hypersonic missiles, and China has more of them than anyone else on Earth. China now fields what the Pentagon itself describes as the world's leading hypersonic missile arsenal, a capability specifically tailored to target high-value naval assets, such as aircraft carriers. That is not the assessment of a think tank or a journalist. That is the American military acknowledging in its own official documents that a foreign adversary has built a weapon system specifically designed to destroy its most important platforms, and that adversary currently leads the world in that technology. To understand why this matters so much, you need to understand what makes a hypersonic missile fundamentally different from anything the United States Navy has ever faced before. A conventional cruise missile flies at subsonic or low supersonic speeds. It follows a relatively predictable flight path. The Navy's existing defense systems, radar arrays, interceptor missiles, close-in weapons were designed and refined over decades to track, predict, and destroy exactly these kinds of threats. The United States is very good at shooting down cruise missiles. The Red Sea operations against Houthi attacks prove that repeatedly. A hypersonic missile is a different category of problem entirely. Hypersonic weapons fly at between 5 and 10 times the speed of sound, and their ability to change course mid-flight makes them extraordinarily difficult to shoot down. They can fly as low as conventional aircraft while maneuvering on their way to the target, challenging defensive systems in ways that existing threats do not. The combination of extreme speed and mid-course maneuverability means that traditional intercept calculations, the mathematical models that tell a missile where an incoming threat will be when the interceptor arrives, simply do not work. By the time a defense system predicts where a hypersonic missile is going, the missile has already changed direction. The flagship of China's hypersonic arsenal is the DF-17. The DF-17 is a medium-range hypersonic missile that can be armed with a hypersonic glide vehicle and reportedly reach speeds of Mach 10, 10 times the speed of sound, while striking targets from more than 1,500 miles away. At that speed, covering 1,500 miles takes roughly 18 minutes. That is the timeline within which American Carrier Strike Group commanders would have to detect, track, classify, and destroy an incoming threat that is actively maneuvering to defeat any intercept attempt. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has stated plainly that 15 hypersonic missiles could destroy all 10 American aircraft carriers within the first 20 minutes of a conflict with China. The man running the Pentagon, making this assessment openly in a public interview, is effectively saying that the central instrument of American naval power is vulnerable to a volley of missiles that China can fire from the Chinese mainland. A leaked Pentagon brief cited by the New York Times reported that China has amassed an arsenal of around 600 hypersonic missiles capable of traveling at 5 times the speed of sound, while the United States had not yet deployed a single one of its own. 600 to 0. That is the hypersonic gap that the United States military is currently trying to close under enormous time pressure with no margin for procurement delays or program management failures. The question that naturally follows is, what is America doing about it? The answer the Navy has been pursuing for years and is now accelerating with renewed urgency involves firing back not with missiles, but with light. Laser weapons. Directed energy systems that fire concentrated beams of energy at the speed of light itself, 300 million meters per second, and can in theory intercept any object that is moving slower than that, which is everything, including hypersonic missiles flying at Mach 10. The concept is not new. The United States military has been experimenting with shipboard laser weapons since the 1980s, with limited results. The history of directed energy research in the American military is littered with programs that showed enormous promise in laboratory conditions, and then encountered brutal reality when exposed to the ocean environment. Salt air, humidity, rolling seas, power generation limitations, atmospheric distortion, and fell apart. Senior Navy leaders have been openly critical about the pace of progress. One Navy admiral publicly stated he was embarrassed at the state of the service's directed energy weapon developments. Another declared that the Navy must deliver on the promise that this technology offers. But something has shifted. The pace of testing has accelerated, the urgency is undeniable, and real results are beginning to emerge. In August 2022, the Navy installed Helios, the high-energy laser with integrated optical dazzler and surveillance system, on the Arleigh Burke-class destroyer USS Preble. Developed by Lockheed Martin, the 60-kilowatt system integrates directly with the ship's Aegis radar and combat system. Helios is not a science project mounted on a test barge somewhere in a quiet harbor. It is a permanent installation on an operational warship, integrated into the same combat management system the ship uses to fight every other threat in its threat library. In a 2025 demonstration, the Preble used Helios to shoot down 4 drones in a single engagement. 4 separate aerial targets engaged and destroyed by a beam of concentrated light fired from a destroyer sailing at sea. That is a meaningful operational milestone, not a controlled laboratory test with ideal conditions. But shooting down drones is not the same as stopping a hypersonic missile, and the gap between those two tasks is not incremental. It is a chasm. The Navy estimates that roughly 300 kilowatts of laser output would be needed to defeat anti-ship cruise missiles, 5 times the power of the current Helios system. And defeating a true hypersonic missile would require something in the range of 1 megawatt. To put that in perspective, 1 megawatt is enough electricity to power approximately 800 average American homes simultaneously. Generating that much power, storing it, managing the heat it produces, and directing it through a beam control system accurate enough to track a Mach 10 target, all on a ship rolling in open ocean, is one of the most demanding engineering challenges in the history of weapons development. This is the problem that Hellcat was created to solve. The high-energy laser counter anti-ship cruise missile program is specifically designed to expedite the development, experimentation, integration, and demonstration of critical technologies needed to defeat crossing anti-ship cruise missiles. Hellcat represents the Navy's recognition that Helios, for all its promise, is a first step and not a final answer. The program aims to produce and test a laser platform of over 300 kilowatts, a substantial leap from anything currently installed on an operational warship. In June of 2025, the Navy awarded Coherent Aerospace and Defense nearly $30 million to develop a new laser project called Songbow, tasked with advancing pulsed fiber lasers, wavefront control, and beam combination to realize a system targeting 400 kilowatts, built by integrating multiple 50-kilowatt modules. The modular approach is significant. Rather than trying to build one enormous laser generator, engineers are stacking smaller units whose beams are then combined into a single, more powerful output. It is the directed energy equivalent of combining many small streams into one powerful river. The Trump administration's December 2025 proposal for a new class of guided missile battleships called for 2 lasers on each ship, each with a beam power of between 300 and 600 kilowatts, power levels that could be capable of countering at least some categories of anti-ship cruise missiles. The fact that laser weapons are being designed into new ship classes from the keel up, rather than bolted on as afterthoughts to existing designs, signals that the Navy has made a fundamental decision. Directed energy is not an experiment anymore. It is a core element of future naval architecture. There is also a related concept that has received less public attention, but deserves to be mentioned here because it points toward the longer-term future of ship defense. Beyond lasers, researchers have explored the possibility of using ionized plasma, a superheated gas that carries electrical charge, to create fields that can disrupt the guidance systems and structural integrity of incoming threats. The United States Army has explored the concept of using dynamic pulse detonation technology to create plasma-based effects that could interfere with incoming threats, a concept that is reminiscent of science fiction, but is grounded in real physics research. The idea is that a pulse of superheated plasma could create a zone of disruption around a ship, interfering with the sensors, electronics, and structural materials of incoming missiles before a direct energy hit is even required. This research remains in its early stage, but it represents the frontier of where directed energy defense is headed over the coming decades. The stakes of getting this right are extraordinarily high. An aircraft carrier represents not just $13 billion in hardware. It represents the 5,000 sailors aboard, the 80 aircraft in its hangar, and the decades of training and operational experience embedded in every crew member. Losing a carrier in combat would be the most significant American military loss since the Second World War. It would reshape the global balance of power, shatter the perception of American invincibility, and hand China a psychological and strategic victory that no amount of subsequent military action could fully reverse. The USS Gerald R. Ford, the most advanced carrier ever built, is expected to serve well into the 2050s. But given the proliferation of weapons like the DF-17, it may be more vulnerable right now than any comparable platform has been in the last 80 years. That is the uncomfortable reality at the heart of this story. The most expensive and capable warship ever built is simultaneously the most threatened it has ever been. The laser program is America's bet that technology can outrun the threat. Whether that bet pays off in time is the central question of American naval security for the next decade. The testing results are promising. The engineering challenges are formidable, the timeline is urgent, and the adversary is not standing still. The United States Navy is building a revolutionary aircraft carrier that could redefine naval power across the world's oceans. After the costly growing pains of the USS Gerald R. Ford, the Navy claims it has finally cracked the code. With refined electromagnetic aircraft launch systems, fully functional weapons elevators, and a Virginia payload module, inspired unmanned warfare center designed for large-scale drone operations, this new carrier promises sustained sortie rates and strike power that even near-peer adversaries may struggle to counter. How did the Navy turn Ford's failures into lessons learned? And what truly sets Enterprise apart from its troubled predecessor? Join us as we examine America's USS Enterprise CVN-80 that is making every Navy nervous. For decades, aircraft carriers have been America's ultimate show of force on the high seas. The Nimitz-class carriers did this job brilliantly for 3 decades, delivering 10 of these massive ships that kept America's enemies at bay. Then came the Ford-class, meant to be the next evolution, the carrier of the future optimized for modern warfare. By 2025, the Navy had 11 carriers total, with 3 Ford-class ships either sailing, being built, or paid for. This fleet represents the most advanced carrier force on the planet. They do more than just look intimidating. They deter China from getting too aggressive in the Pacific. They keep American influence alive in every ocean. They show allies that America's technology is light years ahead. And most importantly, they give Washington the ability to hit back hard against anyone foolish enough to pick a fight. But here's where things got complicated. The first Ford-class carrier, the USS Gerald R. Ford, turned into an expensive nightmare that had Navy admirals pulling their hair out. Ford tried to revolutionize everything at once, cramming 23 brand new technologies into one ship. It was like upgrading every system in your house simultaneously and expecting nothing to go wrong. However, everything went wrong. The Electromagnetic Aircraft Launch System, or EMALS for short, was supposed to replace the old steam catapults that had been flinging jets off carriers since World War II. Cool idea, except it kept breaking down. It was designed to work 4,000 times between failures. Instead, it broke after just 600 launches, forcing flight operations to stop dead in their tracks during testing. Then there was the advanced arresting gear, the system that catches planes when they land. It was supposed to last 16,500 cycles between breakdowns. Reality? 450 cycles. Pilots weren't exactly thrilled about landing on a carrier with sketchy arrest gear, but that wasn't even the last of the challenges they experienced with the Ford. Then came the issues with the weapons elevators. These electromagnetic lifts were supposed to haul bombs and missiles from deep storage up to the flight deck where jets get loaded up. The contract said all 11 elevators had to work before the Navy accepted delivery of the ship. When the Ford was commissioned, only 7 worked. The others took years of expensive fixes to get operational. Congress was furious. Costs ballooned $13 billion over budget, and everyone started asking the obvious question, was all this fancy new technology actually worth it? The Navy learned the hard way that they couldn't revolutionize everything at once. So when it came time to build Enterprise, they took a completely different approach. Instead of rushing to install experimental systems, they built dedicated test facilities on land. Engineers launched and recovered aircraft thousands of times, deliberately breaking components to figure out what failed and why. They redesigned weak points, upgraded problem parts, and tested everything again and again before installing anything on Enterprise. The construction schedule got longer, but Navy leaders decided that delays were better than delivering another broken ship. This time, political pressure to hit deadlines took a back seat to actually building something that worked. The lessons from Ford's disaster were expensive, but the Navy finally learned them. Enterprise got serious upgrades based on Ford's failures. The electromagnetic systems receive upgraded power components that could handle the electrical loads without frying themselves. Engineers replaced parts prone to burning out with more robust alternatives that had been tested through thousands of cycles. The weapons elevators got simplified designs, cutting out unnecessary complexity that caused Ford's elevators to jam and fail. Instead of experimental motor configurations, they used proven designs that actually worked. The installation timeline changed too. Rather than turning on all systems simultaneously and hoping for the best, Enterprise would activate systems one at a time. This methodical approach meant engineers could troubleshoot each system individually before adding more variables. It's like checking each ingredient while baking, instead of throwing everything together and wondering why your cake exploded. Enterprise's construction timeline shows just how seriously the Navy took these improvements. Steel cutting began in August 2017 at Newport News Shipbuilding in Virginia, the only place in America that can build nuclear-powered carriers. The keel got laid in April 2022, when the ship was about 13% complete. This formal ceremony marked the Navy's official commitment to construction milestones and delivery schedules. By November 2024, something remarkable happened. Shipbuilders floated Enterprise's mid-body section for the first time, moving it within the massive dry dock to make room for the next carrier, USS Doris Miller. This required flooding the dry dock with over 100 million gallons of water, carefully floating the partially built Enterprise, then repositioning it so work could continue on both carriers simultaneously. It marked the first time 2 Ford-class carriers were under construction in the same dry dock. The logistics alone were mind-boggling. Construction milestones kept coming. In March 2025, shipbuilders lifted the 940-ton aft section into place, a massive piece of the puzzle that required precision welding and exact dimensional alignment. But delivery dates kept slipping. First, the Navy targeted March 2028. Then material shortages pushed it to September 2029. Then suppliers couldn't deliver critical components on time, and the date slid to July 2030. Now let's get into the specs. This formidable beast will displace approximately 100,000 tons when fully loaded. That's the weight of about 50,000 cars floating on water. The ship stretches 333 meters long with a flight deck 78 meters wide. Basically, it's longer than 3 football fields and wider than most city streets. 2 A-1B nuclear reactors sit deep in the hull, providing essentially unlimited range. These reactors generate enough electrical power to run all the ship's systems, plus have massive reserves left over for future energy weapons and electromagnetic systems that the Navy hasn't even invented yet. The reactors will run for 20 to 25 years before needing refueling, and that only happens once during the ship's 50-year service life. This nuclear endurance creates strategic advantages that diesel-powered carriers simply cannot match. Enterprise can stay on station indefinitely without needing vulnerable tanker ships to bring fuel. Conventional carriers need regular refueling, which means support vessels that enemies can target. Enterprise, it just keeps going. The electromagnetic launch systems represent the most visible upgrade from old-school carriers. 4 EMALS catapults will smoothly accelerate aircraft from a dead stop to flying speed in about 3 seconds. Unlike steam catapults that jerk aircraft forward with brutal force, EMALS uses linear induction motors providing precise acceleration control. This means less stress on airframes, which means jets last longer. The system can launch everything from lightweight drones to fully loaded strike fighters carrying tons of weapons and fuel. Steam catapults struggled with this weight range, either being too gentle for heavy aircraft or too violent for light ones. EMALS adjusts the acceleration profile for each launch, like having a dimmer switch instead of just on-off. Early Ford operations proved EMALS could work, but reliability improvements for Enterprise address all those power failures and component burnouts that plagued Ford. The Navy wasn't taking chances this time. The advanced arresting gear catches landing aircraft using electromagnetic controls instead of hydraulic systems. This reduces the violent deceleration that slams pilots into their seats and strains airframes. Gentler recoveries mean longer aircraft service life and fewer structural repairs. For pilots who land on carriers for a living, anything that makes the experience less bone-rattling is a win. Now let's talk about those infamous weapons elevators. Enterprise will have 11 of these electromagnetic lifts designed to move bombs and missiles from storage magazines deep in the ship up to the flight deck where aircraft get armed. These elevators use linear electromagnetic motors instead of cables and pulleys, theoretically allowing faster munition transport with less maintenance. Theoretically. Ford's elevator development consumed years and millions of dollars because the complex electromagnetic controls were nightmares to integrate. Enterprise benefits from simplified designs and proven motor configurations, plus software fixes addressing everything that went wrong on Ford. The Navy spent $50 million just on Enterprise elevator improvements. That's how determined they were to avoid another elevator disaster. The Air Wing Enterprise represents cutting-edge American naval aviation. Expect approximately 75 to 90 aircraft depending on the mission, F/A-18E/F. Super Hornets provide the backbone, capable of attacking air and ground targets with equal effectiveness. F-35C, Lightning II, stealth fighters penetrate enemy defenses that would shred conventional aircraft, gathering intelligence with advanced sensors while dropping precision weapons on high-value targets. EEA-18G Growlers jam enemy radar and communications, essentially blinding adversaries and preventing them from coordinating responses. E-2D Advanced Hawkeye aircraft provide airborne early warning, detecting threats hundreds of miles away and coordinating the entire Air Wing's operations. MQ-25 Stingray drones extend strike ranges by refueling other aircraft mid-flight, reducing dependence on vulnerable tanker planes. But here's what really sets Enterprise apart. An unmanned aviation warfare center specifically designed for large-scale drone operations. This $50 million facility reflects the Navy's recognition that future carrier warfare will increasingly rely on unmanned platforms. Drones will conduct surveillance missions too dangerous for pilots. They'll strike defended targets where losing a human crew would be unacceptable. They'll perform electronic warfare and refueling missions while preserving expensive manned aircraft for missions requiring human judgment. The center provides dedicated spaces for drone maintenance, mission planning, and data analysis that current carriers completely lack. This represents a fundamental shift in thinking about carrier air wings. The future isn't purely manned aviation anymore. It's a mixed fleet where unmanned platforms handle the dirty, dangerous work, while human pilots focus on complex missions requiring split-second tactical decisions. The sensor and combat systems give Enterprise situational awareness capabilities beyond anything previous carriers possessed. The dual-band radar combines S-band and X-band arrays into one integrated system, providing 360-degree coverage against air and surface threats. S-band radar detects targets at extreme ranges. X-band radar provides precise tracking and fire control solutions for engaging those threats. This integration enables simultaneous tracking of multiple targets, instant threat assessment, and coordinated engagement planning that previous radar systems couldn't achieve. The ship's self-defense system ties together all defensive weapons, including evolved Sea Sparrow missiles and rolling airframe missiles, creating layered defense against anti-ship missiles, aircraft, and surface threats trying to get close enough to hurt the carrier. Enterprise's construction carries implications far beyond American naval power. In November 2025, China commissioned the Fujian, their third aircraft carrier and the first non-American carrier featuring electromagnetic catapults. Displacing about 80,000 tons with 3 electromagnetic catapults and conventional diesel engines, Fujian represents China's most advanced carrier yet. It signals Beijing's determination to challenge American naval dominance in the Western Pacific. Sure, Fujian is smaller than Enterprise. It carries fewer aircraft. It lacks nuclear endurance and must refuel regularly. But those electromagnetic catapults demonstrate that China achieved technological parity in critical carrier systems. They figured out how to build what America builds. That's concerning. Delays in Enterprise's delivery will give China time to refine Fujian's systems and potentially build improved follow-on carriers incorporating lessons learned. Every month Enterprise sits incomplete is another month China uses to catch up. The competitive pressure is real. Russia adds complexity despite having limited resources for carrier construction. They operate one aging carrier, Admiral Kuznetsov, which breaks down constantly and spends more time in dock than at sea. Russian naval planners have proposed nuclear-powered carrier designs displacing up to 90,000 tons, representing substantial improvements. Budget constraints and shipyard limitations make Russian carrier construction unlikely soon, but the design concepts show Russia recognizes carriers remain relevant power projection tools. European allies watch Enterprise development closely while considering their own carrier needs. France operates the nuclear-powered Charles de Gaulle, displacing 42,000 tons, significantly smaller than American supercarriers, but still capable. The French Navy plans a replacement carrier incorporating electromagnetic catapults based on American technology, with construction potentially starting in the early 20s. The United Kingdom operates 2 Queen Elizabeth-class carriers, displacing 65,000 tons each. These use conventional propulsion and ski-jump launch systems rather than catapults. While they demonstrate Allied commitment to carrier aviation, their smaller size and conventional power plants limit operational flexibility compared to American nuclear supercarriers. They're good ships, just not in the same league as Enterprise. Newport News Shipbuilding faces enormous challenges building Enterprise. It's the only American facility that can construct nuclear carriers, creating strategic vulnerability. If something catastrophic happened here, America's carrier construction capability would vanish overnight. The facility employed about 25,000 workers in 2025, but faced persistent workforce shortages. Training new shipbuilders takes 3 to 5 years for specialized skills like nuclear welding and reactor installation. It's quite impossible to just hire workers off the street for nuclear components. The training pipeline is long, meaning workforce expansion can't quickly fix production bottlenecks. Supply chain constraints made everything worse. Enterprise requires components from over 4,000 suppliers. Many produce specialized items exclusively for carriers. When suppliers hit delays, entire construction phases stop. This means attempts to accelerate construction often failed because critical components didn't exist and couldn't be manufactured faster regardless of funding. Cost control became a persistent headache. Enterprise received approximately $13 billion in funding through fiscal year 2026, with costs escalating as delivery dates slipped. The 2-ship contract covering Enterprise and Doris Miller totaled about $18.5 billion in 2025, indicating per-ship costs approaching $9 billion. These costs substantially exceeded Nimitz-class carriers costing $4 to $5 billion each in equivalent dollars. Congressional oversight intensified. with legislators questioning whether electromagnetic systems justified the premium compared to proven Nimitz designs. Navy leadership defended costs by emphasizing life cycle savings. Electromagnetic catapults require less maintenance than steam systems, reducing crew sizes. Advanced reactors provide greater power with fewer operators. Weapons elevators enable faster rearming, supporting higher sortie rates. These arguments convinced some supporters but faced skepticism from critics noting Ford systems hadn't demonstrated promised reliability yet. Looking forward, Enterprise's completion will provide critical validation of Ford-class technologies. If Enterprise proves electromagnetic systems work reliably, if weapons elevators function properly, if the ship sustains high sortie rates during deployment, then the Ford-class program gets vindicated. But if Enterprise repeats Ford's struggles with system failures and extended maintenance, fundamental questions about the Ford-class concept will intensify. The stakes extend beyond Enterprise to encompass the entire planned program of 10 carriers representing several $100 billion and the foundation of American naval power through the 21st century. The geopolitical environment adds urgency. Chinese naval expansion continues at unprecedented pace, with analysts projecting 6 carriers by the mid-2030s, supported by modern destroyers and submarines. Russian naval modernization includes advanced submarines and anti-ship missiles threatening carriers near Russian territory. Iranian forces employ swarming tactics with small boats and mines that could threaten carriers in confined waters like the Strait of Hormuz. These threats create environments where American carriers must maintain technological advantages to offset numerical disadvantages. The name Enterprise carries tremendous weight. 8 previous ships bore this name. The legendary CV-6 distinguished itself throughout World War II, participating in virtually every major Pacific campaign and surviving despite horrific battle damage. The nuclear-powered CVN-65 served 51 years as the world's first nuclear carrier, setting endurance records proving nuclear propulsion worked for large warships. Naming CVN-80, Enterprise ensures the legacy continues, placing symbolic pressure on the ship to uphold its predecessor's distinguished records, while establishing new performance standards for the Ford-class program and American naval aviation. The commissioning ceremony in the early 2030s will mark both celebration and assessment. Olympic gold medalists Katie Ledecky and Simone Biles will sponsor the ship, representing American excellence. Navy leadership will declare Enterprise operational, but the true test comes during workup periods and deployment cycles where the ship must prove that lessons from Ford's troubles translated into reliable systems and sustained performance. Crew quality of life improvements affect retention and effectiveness. Individual berthing replaces hot racking, where sailors shared bunks on rotating schedules. Enhanced gyms, recreation spaces, and internet connectivity help retain skilled personnel in competitive labor markets. These improvements pay dividends in personnel retention, operational readiness, and sustained performance during demanding deployment schedules. Enterprise represents more than metal, electronics, and nuclear reactors. The carrier embodies American commitment to maintaining naval superiority through technological innovation and sustained investment despite challenges. The delays and difficulties don't diminish the importance of ensuring America operates the world's most capable carrier fleet as foundation of naval power. As construction continues at Newport News, with the systems undergoing testing and as delivery approaches, the world's navies watch nervously. Assuming the program's remaining challenges are overcome, Enterprise will emerge as a new standard for aircraft carrier capability. Rival navies will be forced to reckon with a platform most cannot hope to match for decades. That enduring technological edge and operational flexibility will continue to anchor American naval power well into the 21st century. The United States Navy unleashed a weapon that has made drug cartels tremble in the Pacific. Hidden for years under top-secret programs, the laser system Helios strikes faster than any missile and costs mere dollars per shot. Could this technology finally turn the tide against billion-dollar smuggling networks? And what shocking footage reveals the true power of lasers at sea? Will the cartels ever recover? Join us as we find out what happens when the United States Navy's laser weapons go to battle against the cartels. The USS Preble was cutting through the Pacific in October 2024, carrying a weapon no warship had ever tested in real-world conditions. Buried under layers of secrecy sat the Navy's new high-energy laser with integrated optical dazzler and surveillance system, known simply as Helios. This was not just another piece of military hardware. It was about to prove itself in action for the first time. Naval intelligence had been following strange activity near the California coast. Small, fast boats were moving drugs at night, and whenever Coast Guard cutters moved in, drones suddenly appeared overhead. These weren't amateurs trying their luck. Cartel groups had turned smuggling into coordinated military-style operations. Their speedboats could push past 60 miles an hour while carrying loads of cocaine worth more than $20 million. Meanwhile, the drones circling above provided real-time video to handlers on shore. The result was that the cartels always seemed one step ahead, making traditional interdictions nearly useless. That was about to change. With Helios on board, the Navy no longer had to waste $4.3 million Standard Missile-6 interceptors on drones that cost only a few $1,000s each. Instead, the laser system could fire at a cost of about $13 per shot. The weapon drew 120 kilowatts directly from the ship's own electrical system, removing the need to carry ammunition or resupply mid-mission. The way it works is both simple and extraordinary. Fiber optic cables generate separate beams of light that are combined into one powerful stream. This method, called spectral beam combining, produces temperatures hot enough to burn through a steel engine or set a drone's body ablaze in seconds. Unlike missiles or bullets that travel through the air, laser energy moves at the speed of light, 186,000 miles per second. Against cartel speedboats, this meant instant results. Many of the engines contained aluminum parts that vaporized under the heat. Crews often abandoned ship the moment they saw smoke rising from the stern. The drugs, however, stayed on board, making it easier for authorities to recover the evidence and cripple billion-dollar trafficking routes. The system tracks its targets through a mix of thermal sensors and radar. Unlike conventional weapons, it never runs out of ammunition. That made it particularly effective against the drone swarms the cartels had started using to overwhelm border patrols. What once required multiple ships and costly interceptors could now be handled in seconds by a single vessel equipped with Helios. There were limits, however. The weather along the Gulf Coast sometimes made things tricky. Heavy moisture in the air could scatter the beam, forcing operators to adjust power or wait for conditions to improve. Smugglers were quick to adapt, timing large-scale runs to coincide with storm seasons when laser weapons were less reliable. Even with these challenges, the Navy is already looking ahead. Plans are in motion to expand Helios to 300 kilowatts for use on future DDGX destroyers and next-generation frigates. Right now, only larger ships with advanced power systems can support the huge energy and cooling requirements. Smaller patrol boats, which would benefit greatly, simply don't have the infrastructure to carry the system yet. Helios is also linked to the Aegis combat system, giving ships layered defenses against both air and surface threats. Its optical dazzler offers another option. Instead of destroying a target, it can blind cameras and sensors. That allows intelligence officers to capture cartel data without losing the chance to analyze it. Military leaders see directed energy weapons like Helios as the next step in naval warfare. The cost advantage alone is significant, neutralizing cheap but numerous threats without draining budgets. More importantly, the system keeps crews safe and ensures the Navy maintains control over contested waters. The footage from that October mission remains under wraps, but the signal to cartels and other adversaries is unmistakable. While laser systems at sea reshaped how navies intercept smugglers and drones, the skies required an entirely different kind of breakthrough. The real question became, what happens when the world's most expensive bomber is paired with a weapon that costs less than a cup of coffee to fire? The Northrop Grumman B-2 Spirit, better known as the stealth bomber, carries a staggering price tag of about $2.1 billion per aircraft. Every mission burns through hundreds of thousands of dollars in fuel and support costs before the bomber even releases a single weapon. Conventional precision munitions only add to the expense. Air-to-ground missiles range anywhere from $100,000 to $4 million each. Military leaders started asking how long the United States could afford to fight drawn-out conflicts when opponents were fielding cheap drones and disposable hardware. That concern sparked a quiet but ambitious effort defense contractors began working laser technology into existing aircraft under classified upgrade programs. As part of its latest modernization, the B-2 Spirit received experimental laser pods designed to hit both ground targets and airborne threats. Instead of loading heavy racks of missiles or bombs, the system draws power directly from the plane's electrical generators. This cuts down payload weight and removes many of the limits imposed by conventional ordnance. The change in cost was staggering. Each laser shot came in at roughly $15. A bomber that once needed million-dollar cruise missiles to take out hardened targets could now destroy dozens for the cost of a single traditional warhead. For long campaigns against enemies with endless numbers but limited sophistication, the economics suddenly tilted sharply in America's favor. Adversaries, however, did not stand still. Many began deploying large swarms of cheap drones, launching them in the hundreds to overwhelm defenses. Conventional missile batteries quickly ran into a problem. Ammunition ran out fast, and each interceptor missile cost tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. Analysts calculated that, over time, enemies could bleed American defenses dry simply by throwing waves of expendable machines into the fight. Laser weapons erase that problem. Because they rely only on power from the aircraft, they can fire continuously without running out of ammunition. As long as the generators keep producing electricity, the beam can keep firing. In practical terms, this gave bombers something close to unlimited ammunition. Nuclear-powered ships and advanced electrical grids provided even greater endurance for extended operations. The combination of the B-2's stealth and its new directed energy weapons created a tactical edge no adversary had faced before. Radar operators might detect the bright streak of a missile launch, but laser strikes left almost no trace, only a brief flash of heat when the target was hit. That meant bombers could destroy multiple threats without giving away their position to nearby defenses. There were limits, of course. Lasers are still shaped by the environment. Dust, moisture, and rain scatter the energy beam and reduce its reach. Mission planners now include detailed weather forecasts in their operational checklists. On clear nights with dry air, the system is at its most lethal. This shift has already begun to influence how money is spent. Budgets that once poured into producing mountains of ammunition are being redirected into developing higher output lasers and more powerful generators to sustain them. The focus is moving from stockpiling shells and missiles to investing in renewable energy systems that can keep weapons firing as long as the plane remains airborne. Bomber crews are also being retrained. Unlike traditional bombs, lasers don't explode on impact. They require steady, precise contact with a target for several seconds. Pilots now practice flying patterns that hold beams on moving objects, while operators train on power management to make sure the weapons never drain the system during intense engagements. The shift represents more than just new technology. Strategists see it as a change in how wars will be fought and financed. Victory in modern conflict depends not only on advanced weapons, but also on the ability to fight for months or years without exhausting resources. With the B-2 Spirit now carrying directed energy systems, the United States military has shown that it is preparing for that future, one where cost-effective firepower and technological superiority go hand in hand. In the Red Sea, Iranian-backed forces discovered a profitable new market when Mexican cartels offered cryptocurrency in exchange for modern weapons. The Houthis, already armed with drones, guided munitions, and electronic warfare systems, found eager buyers in organizations flush with cash from fentanyl sales. With billions generated annually through drug trafficking, cartels could afford battlefield-proven equipment that American law enforcement had never faced at home. The trade was managed through encrypted networks overseen by Iranian Revolutionary Guard officers in Yemen. Cartels supplied chemical precursors for explosives, while in return they received completed drones, radar jammers, and even anti-ship missiles. These deals bypassed black market arms dealers and avoided international sanctions designed to stop dangerous weapons from spreading to non-state actors. By early 2024, Houthis were attacking United States Navy destroyers in the Red Sea with kamikaze drones and cruise missiles. Within months, similar systems surfaced along the Texas border. Border Patrol agents began to encounter drone swarms flying in formation, copying the same tactics seen overseas against commercial shipping. What had once been fast boat smuggling runs evolved into militarized campaigns. Cartels now fielded drones with thermal cameras for surveillance, jammers to cut police radios, and even explosive-laden suicide drones used against rivals. This level of sophistication posed a crisis that ordinary policing could not contain. Iranian advisors deepened the threat by training cartel fighters directly. In camps hidden across Mexico and Central America, former Houthi drone operators taught everything from electronic warfare to coordinated strike tactics. These programs produced a new generation of cartel technicians who could build, maintain, and deploy weapons that rivaled those used in war zones. The network came to light when United States intelligence traced cryptocurrency movements, linking cartel accounts to Middle Eastern operators. Investigators matched payment schedules to known Houthi weapons purchases, proving that American drug demand was indirectly funding militants engaged in live combat with United States forces abroad. Soon, American police and border units began reporting weapons they had never seen outside of combat zones, night vision devices built for the battlefield, encrypted satellite communications, and armor-piercing ammunition. Local shootouts started to resemble clashes in foreign war zones, with gangs wielding tools meant to fight national militaries. Financial assessments confirmed the core problem. Cartels now commanded revenues greater than the defense budgets of many nations. With money on that scale, they could buy nearly any weapon on the global market. This economic power meant that criminal organizations inside the United States borders had the resources of a hostile state, turning a law enforcement challenge into a national security emergency. While Iranian weapons continued moving south through established channels, Mexican cartels were busy building something that caught intelligence agencies completely off guard. The pressing question became, what happens when criminal organizations begin producing military hardware faster than governments can track it? Using just the profits from a single fentanyl shipment valued at around $200 million, cartels set up underground aerospace manufacturing sites. These weren't makeshift workshops or hobbyist drone operations. They were full-scale facilities staffed with engineers who had once worked for legitimate defense contractors. Production lines inside disguised warehouses and abandoned mines were turning out as many as 50 advanced unmanned aerial vehicles every month, hidden from satellite detection by carefully built hangars and underground infrastructure. The Sinaloa cartel also managed to purchase 12 Turkish-made Bayraktar TB2 drones, aircraft already proven on battlefields in Ukraine and Syria. Instead of mounting explosives, cartel technicians reconfigured the payload bays to carry up to 500 pounds of compressed fentanyl. A single flight could deliver enough narcotics to saturate the East Coast drug market for half a year. The cartel's surveillance capacity transformed almost overnight. Persistent drone patrols equipped with thermal sensors and secure communication links provided constant updates on border patrol movements, high-altitude balloon locations, and law enforcement patrol patterns. Coordinated formations used artificial intelligence software originally designed for military swarm tactics, giving cartels real-time command over wide stretches of the border. Materials science also became part of their playbook. Factories began producing airframes out of carbon fiber and other advanced composites, giving drones more speed and endurance compared to aluminum-bodied aircraft. Many suppliers who sold the raw materials assumed they were dealing with ordinary commercial buyers and never questioned the unusual order volumes. Quality standards inside these underground factories rivaled those found in legitimate aerospace production lines. Cartel ingenuity extended into the seas as well. Narco submarines, once crude vessels for smuggling, evolved into autonomous carriers able to launch aerial drones while submerged. This created layered surveillance networks that existing interdiction methods could not detect, much less disrupt. Each submarine carried as many as 20 small drones, each with the endurance to remain airborne for more than 8 hours. Electronic warfare soon entered the picture. During clashes with rivals and law enforcement, cartels began deploying jammers and radar spoofing equipment. These systems disrupted police communications and even interfered with civilian aviation networks during smuggling runs. Much of the hardware and training came directly from Iranian sources, with instructors operating from bases in Central America. Autonomy made the threat even more dangerous. New targeting systems allowed drones to identify and pursue vehicles or people without any human operator in control. Facial recognition programs and vehicle matching algorithms enabled aircraft to track targets across state lines for days at a time. Police suddenly faced flying weapons that behaved more like hunter-killer machines than surveillance tools. By the early 2010s, the global drone market was worth an estimated $42 billion, and cartels were a part of it. Through front companies, they poured money into universities, startups, and artificial intelligence firms. Many researchers never realized their civilian projects were being adapted for cartel weapons programs. With mass production, costs plunged. Each combat-ready drone could be built for under $10,000. That meant a single drug shipment worth $50 million could finance as many as 5,000 drones. This direct link between narcotics profits and weapons development created exponential growth in cartel military strength. For the United States military, few options remained. Conventional airstrikes against these hidden factories risked heavy civilian casualties in densely populated areas. Strategic bombers armed with precision lasers emerged as the only realistic counter. Unlike explosive munitions, directed energy weapons could destroy underground entrances, manufacturing equipment, and command centers with surgical accuracy, carrying out strikes inside the United States territory without triggering the kind of devastation that traditional weapons would cause. Cartel breakthroughs in drone technology grabbed headlines, but America's investment in laser weapons gave the United States a clear advantage. Unlike missiles or conventional guns, directed energy systems have a major edge. They perform best in the very conditions that smugglers depend on. In many ways, nature itself has become an ally for the United States' defense. Could the very skies the cartels rely on actually be working against them? By 2023, military planners had figured out how to use weather and air conditions to know when lasers would work best. Some people pointed out possible limits, but in fact, these conditions usually gave the United States an advantage over the cartels. Clear skies, low humidity, and stable temperatures, the most common conditions along key border areas, allow lasers to strike targets with pinpoint accuracy, almost instantly. The deserts of Arizona and New Mexico tell a similar story. Cartels counted on heat to shield their drones, but the clear desert air helps lasers travel unimpeded. With minimal moisture or clouds, targets can be disabled long before they cross into United States territory. In this setting, dry landscapes became a natural ally for defense forces. Altitude works similarly. The higher a drone flies, the thinner the air becomes, meaning there's less to block or scatter the laser beam. This allows military lasers to stay tightly focused, deliver more energy to their target, and hit with devastating precision. Ironically, cartel drones trying to escape by flying higher only made them more visible to United States sensors, making it easier for operators to track, target, and disable them. The weather could pose a challenge. Fog, dust, heavy storms, or sudden rain showers can scatter light and slightly reduce a laser's effectiveness. Yet the United States systems are built to handle these obstacles. Satellites and radar provide real-time tracking, while conventional interceptors back up the lasers when nature tries to interfere. On most days, clear skies, dry air, and stable temperatures give American defenses a natural advantage. By the end of the day, the cartel's massive investments in drones rarely paid off. Instead of shielding them, the atmosphere often magnified the effectiveness of the United States' lasers. Sunlight, desert air, and thin, high-altitude conditions became silent allies, turning the sky into a vast, invisible extension of America's shield, a force the cartels could neither hide from nor fight. The cartels thought their drones and smuggling tricks gave them an advantage, but the United States Navy's laser weapon changed that. Quiet, accurate, and powerful, it turns the skies the cartels counted on into a place they can't control. After years of speculation, people around the world can finally see the United States Navy's laser weapon in action against cartel operations. For the first time, the power, speed, and precision of this technology are on full display. It shows how modern weapons can stop threats almost instantly without the need for traditional explosives or bullets. The lesson is clear. The future of fighting crime and warfare has arrived, and the balance of power has shifted in favor of those who can control the skies. The United States created a weapon so strong, it doesn't need explosives, just raw speed and metal. The Navy's over $200 million railgun fires solid steel at over 8,000 feet per second, tearing through ships like paper from nearly 100 miles away. But after years of jaw-dropping tests, this terrifying machine vanished. Why did the Navy suddenly shut down its most powerful weapon? And what secret danger forced them to walk away? Join us as the United States tests its railgun worth millions. The metal beast sits motionless on the testing platform, its twin rails gleaming under the harsh lights of the Naval Surface Warfare Center. This is no ordinary weapon. The electromagnetic railgun represents 15 years of military engineering and $500 million in taxpayer money. Its sleek barrel stretches forward like a cannon from the future. But inside, pure science replaces gunpowder and explosives. When the countdown reaches 0, invisible forces unleash their fury. Electromagnetic fields, generated by massive electrical currents, grab hold of a 7-pound projectile and accelerate it down those parallel rails. The speed builds instantly, faster than any traditional bullet, faster than most missiles. In less than a second, the projectile screams out of the barrel at 8,270 feet per second. That's more than 5 times faster than a rifle bullet. The destructive mathematics is terrifying. This projectile carries no explosives, no warhead, and no chemical energy. It doesn't need them. At hypersonic speeds, kinetic energy becomes the weapon. The faster something moves, the more devastating its impact. When a 7-pound chunk of metal strikes a target at these velocities, it delivers the same destructive force as a small artillery shell packed with high explosives. Navy engineers pushed their creation even further during years of testing. Early demonstrations showcased an 8-megajoule system firing projectiles with incredible precision. But the real monster was still coming, a planned 64-megajoule weapon system designed specifically for warships. The power requirements were staggering. Each shot would demand the same electrical energy that powers several city blocks. The weapon's range capabilities redefine naval warfare possibilities. Traditional ship cannons reach maybe 15 miles on a good day. The railgun could strike targets 100 miles away with pinpoint accuracy. Enemy ships, coastal installations, even aircraft, nothing within that massive radius would be safe from this electromagnetic hammer. Testing footage reveals the weapon's raw power. Each firing sequence begins with a low hum as capacitors charge with millions of volts. Then comes the moment of release, a brilliant flash, a thunderous crack, and the projectile vanishes into the distance faster than the human eye can track. The ocean becomes the only safe backdrop for these demonstrations. No military installation dares test this weapon anywhere near populated areas. The implications terrified and excited military planners in equal measure. Ships equipped with railguns could engage multiple targets simultaneously without worrying about ammunition storage or explosive safety. Traditional naval guns require tons of volatile gunpowder stored deep within a ship's hull, a floating bomb waiting for enemy fire to ignite it. Railguns eliminate that vulnerability. But the electromagnetic monster demanded a price that even the world's most powerful navy couldn't pay. The electrical requirements pushed ship power systems beyond their limits. Each shot drained enough energy to power a small town. The rails themselves wore out after relatively few firings, requiring constant replacement and maintenance. Heat buildup threatened to melt the weapon's core components. By 2021, reality overtook ambition. The Navy quietly shifted funding away from railgun development, focusing instead on hypersonic missiles and laser weapons. The electromagnetic beast that once promised to revolutionize naval combat became a $500 million lesson in the gap between theoretical possibility and practical deployment. But while America's electromagnetic dreams crumbled, another science fiction weapon was quietly proving its deadly potential. Could invisible beams of light become the Navy's ultimate defense? The USS Portland cuts through Pacific waters on May 16, 2020, its crew preparing for a test that would make naval history. High above the ship, a small drone buzzes through the morning air, unaware it's about to become the target of humanity's first operational laser weapon system at sea. The laser weapon system demonstrator sits mounted on the ship's deck, like a sleek telescope pointed at the sky. Inside its housing, solid-state laser diodes generate an invisible beam of concentrated light energy. Unlike the railgun's brute force approach, This weapon kills with precision and silence. No projectiles, no explosions, no ammunition to reload, just pure energy traveling at the speed of light. The targeting sequence begins as radar operators lock onto the drone's position. Computer systems calculate flight path, speed, and distance in milliseconds. The laser weapon swivels smoothly, tracking its target with mechanical precision. Then comes the moment that changes everything. The invisible beam reaches out across the sky and touches the drone. What happens next defies traditional warfare expectations. The drone doesn't explode in a dramatic fireball. Instead, its electronic systems simply die. Critical components overheat and fail as the laser's energy overwhelms delicate circuits. Within seconds, the unmanned aircraft tumbles from the sky like a broken toy, its threat neutralized without a single conventional weapon fired. The successful test sends shockwaves through military circles worldwide. For decades, science fiction promised laser weapons that could defend ships from incoming threats. The Portland's demonstration proves that the future has arrived. The solid-state laser system can engage multiple targets simultaneously, switching between threats faster than any human gunner could track them. Navy officials released carefully worded statements about the test's success, but the implications speak louder than any press release. Enemy drones, small boats, and even incoming missiles now face a defensive system that operates at light speed. Traditional countermeasures become useless against a weapon that strikes instantly across vast distances. The laser's versatility extends far beyond anti-aircraft duties. Small attack boats, the kind used by terrorist organizations and rogue nations, become sitting ducks against this technology. The beam can disable engines, destroy navigation equipment, or blind optical sensors without sinking the vessel entirely. This precision offers military commanders options beyond total destruction. Power requirements for laser weapons remain significant, but manageable compared to railguns. Modern warships generate enough electricity to operate these systems continuously without draining other critical functions. Heat management poses challenges, but engineers have developed cooling systems that keep the lasers operational during extended engagements. The cost advantages become clear quickly. Each laser shot costs roughly $1 in electricity. Compare that to million-dollar interceptor missiles traditionally used against aerial threats. A single laser weapon system can engage hundreds of targets for the price of one conventional missile intercept. International observers watch these developments with growing concern. Laser weapons represent a fundamental shift in naval power projection. Nations without access to this technology face obsolete fleets overnight. The balance of power at sea tilts decisively toward countries possessing these light-speed weapons. Military strategists recognize the broader implications immediately. Swarm attacks using dozens of cheap drones could previously overwhelm ship defenses through sheer numbers. Laser weapons flip that equation completely. Now expensive attack platforms become vulnerable to relatively inexpensive defensive systems that never run out of ammunition. While laser beams defend ships with light-speed precision, the Navy's most devastating weapons still rely on raw explosive power. But what happens when these 1,000-pound instruments of destruction need reloading in the middle of a battle? Deep in the missile compartments of Navy destroyers, ordnance crews prepare weapons that can reach targets over 1,000 miles away. The Tomahawk land attack missile sits secured in its vertical launch cell, a sleek white cylinder packed with enough explosive power to level city blocks. These cruise missiles represent the ultimate expression of long-range naval striking power. Each Tomahawk carries a sophisticated guidance system that uses terrain contour matching to navigate across vast distances. The missile flies low, hugging the Earth's surface to avoid enemy radar detection. Its jet engine pushes the weapon at subsonic speeds for hours, following pre-programmed routes loaded before launch. The Tomahawk's 1,000-mile reach transforms naval warfare strategy completely. Enemy targets that once felt safe hundreds of miles inland now face destruction from ships positioned far beyond the horizon. Coastal installations, command bunkers, and critical infrastructure all fall within this weapon's deadly embrace. 7 different variants of the missile provide commanders with options ranging from conventional explosives to specialized warheads designed for specific target types. Beneath the surface, submarines carry their own arsenal of destruction. The Mark 54 torpedo weighs over 1,000 pounds and packs enough Torpex explosive to crack a submarine's hull like an eggshell. Torpex, short for torpedo explosive, delivers 50% more destructive power than traditional TNT. These underwater assassins can track enemy submarines across distances of 10,000 yards, their sonar guidance systems hunting prey through the ocean depths. Surface vessels launch these torpedoes from deck-mounted tubes, sending them racing through the water at speeds that give enemy submarines little time to react or escape. The Mark 54's advanced guidance system can distinguish between different types of underwater targets, ensuring it strikes the intended vessel rather than friendly forces operating in the same area. But the Navy's most dangerous moment comes not during combat, but during the deadly process of rearming these weapons at sea. In calm harbors, massive cranes lift 1,000-pound missiles into their launch cells with mechanical precision. At sea, however, the ocean's constant motion turns this routine operation into a life-threatening gamble. Waves roll beneath the ship's hull, causing the deck to pitch and sway unpredictably. Sailors must guide missiles weighing more than half a ton into narrow launch tubes while fighting against gravity and momentum. One wrong move, one moment of lost concentration, and crushing death becomes inevitable. The Navy removed shipboard cranes years ago after too many accidents proved the danger too great to accept. Today's tensions with Russia and China make at-sea rearming operations more likely than ever before. Extended deployments in contested waters mean ships may need to reload their weapons far from friendly ports. Ordnance crews train constantly for these scenarios, knowing their lives depend on perfect execution under impossible conditions. The process begins in darkness to avoid enemy observation. Sailors wearing safety harnesses work in teams, using hand signals to communicate over the noise of wind and waves. Each missile must be lifted by human strength and mechanical winches, guided carefully into position while the ship rolls beneath their feet. Modern missiles like the Norwegian Naval Strike Missile add another layer of complexity to rearming operations. These weapons can engage both ships and land targets at ranges up to 345 miles. But their sophisticated electronics make them extremely sensitive to shock and impact during handling. Even with these devastating long-range weapons loaded and ready, enemy missiles can still penetrate deep into battle zones. So what happens when hostile projectiles break through and target the ships themselves? Modern naval warfare operates on a simple principle. Multiple layers of defense must work together, or the ship dies. When enemy missiles streak toward American warships at supersonic speeds, commanders have only minutes to deploy countermeasures that mean the difference between survival and destruction. The first line of defense begins hundreds of miles from the target ship. Norwegian naval strike missiles, mounted on Allied vessels, reach out across 345 miles of ocean to eliminate enemy launch platforms before they can fire. These precision weapons use advanced guidance systems to track moving targets across vast distances, striking enemy ships with devastating accuracy. Each naval strike missile carries enough explosive power to cripple or sink most enemy vessels with a single hit. The weapon's sophisticated targeting system can distinguish between different ship types, prioritizing high-value targets like aircraft carriers and command vessels. When multiple missiles launch simultaneously, they coordinate their attacks to overwhelm enemy defenses through synchronized strikes. As threats move closer, the second defensive layer activates. HIMARS rocket systems, traditionally designed for land-based artillery, have been adapted for ship-to-shore bombardment operations. These versatile launchers can fire multiple types of projectiles, from precision-guided rockets to long-range tactical missiles. The M142 high-mobility artillery rocket system proves its worth when enemy forces attempt amphibious landings or coastal bombardment. Each HIMARS pod contains 6 guided rockets or larger tactical missiles capable of striking targets with pinpoint accuracy. The system's rapid-fire capability allows ships to saturate enemy positions with devastating firepower in minutes. But the most critical moments come when enemy missiles penetrate these outer defenses and race toward their targets at speeds exceeding the sound barrier. Ship-based radar systems track incoming threats while computers calculate impact trajectories and engagement windows. Seconds count as the final layer of defense prepares to engage. The Phalanx close-in weapon system represents the last hope for survival. This automated defense system combines sophisticated radar tracking with a 6-barrel Gatling cannon capable of firing 4,500 rounds per minute. The weapon's nickname, Sea Whiz, comes from the distinctive buzzing sound its spinning barrels create during firing. Phalanx operates completely independently of human control once activated. Its radar dome rotates constantly, scanning for incoming threats within a 5-mile radius. When hostile missiles enter the engagement zone, the system locks on and unleashes a stream of 20-millimeter tungsten projectiles designed to shred incoming warheads. The Gatling cannon's rate of fire creates a wall of metal in the sky. Each tungsten round travels fast enough to penetrate missile casings and detonate warheads safely away from the ship. The system can engage multiple targets simultaneously, switching between threats in milliseconds as its computer brain prioritizes the most dangerous incoming missiles. Engagement ranges remain deliberately short to avoid hitting friendly aircraft or missiles. The Phalanx fires only when enemy projectiles close to within 1 to 5 miles of the protected vessel. At these distances, the system has mere seconds to identify, track, and destroy threats before they impact. Modern anti-ship missiles travel at speeds that compress engagement windows to almost nothing. A missile flying at Mach 3 covers the Phalanx's maximum engagement range in less than 10 seconds. The automated system must detect, track, calculate, and fire without human intervention, relying entirely on computer processing power and mechanical precision. When ship-based defenses reach their limits, the ultimate response launches from carrier decks at supersonic speeds. But what happens when humanity's most advanced killing machines become too powerful for their creators to control? The flight deck of the U.S. Gerald R. Ford pulses with activity as red-suited ordnance crews prepare the deadliest aircraft ever deployed at sea. F-35 Lightning II fighters sit lined up like sleeping predators, their stealth profiles designed to slip past enemy radar undetected. These fifth-generation fighter jets represent the pinnacle of airborne warfare technology. Each F-35 costs over $100 million and carries sensors capable of detecting threats from hundreds of miles away. The aircraft's stealth coating absorbs radar waves, making it nearly invisible to enemy tracking systems until weapons release. Advanced computer systems process battlefield information faster than human pilots can comprehend, turning each jet into a flying supercomputer armed with precision munitions. The ordnance crews work with mechanical precision, their bright red uniforms making them instantly recognizable on the busy carrier deck. These specialists handle weapons that could level city blocks, loading guided bombs and air-to-air missiles onto aircraft with practiced efficiency. Each crew member trains for years to safely manage explosives, powerful enough to sink enemy warships or destroy hardened military installations. Modern naval aviation operates on a scale that dwarfs previous generations of warfare. A single F-35 can carry multiple precision-guided munitions, each capable of striking targets with surgical accuracy from distances exceeding 100 miles. The jet's internal weapons bay conceals these deadly payloads from enemy sensors, maintaining stealth characteristics throughout combat missions. The loading process reveals the raw, destructive potential these aircraft carry. Guided bombs weighing 2,000 pounds slide into internal weapon compartments, their guidance systems programmed to strike specific buildings or vehicles with pinpoint accuracy. Air-to-air missiles designed to destroy enemy fighters beyond visual range mount beneath the wings, their seekers calibrated to track heat signatures or radar emissions. Flight operations begin before dawn as pilots prepare for missions that could reshape global conflicts. The F-35's helmet-mounted display system projects targeting information directly onto the pilot's visor, allowing weapon engagement without traditional cockpit instruments. This integration of human and machine creates unprecedented combat effectiveness, but also raises disturbing questions about the direction of modern warfare. As these advanced weapon systems become more capable, military planners acknowledge growing concerns about their ultimate implications. The F-35 program alone costs over $400 billion, representing the most expensive weapon system in human history. Nations worldwide scramble to develop countermeasures for aircraft that outclass previous fighter generations by enormous margins. The rapid pace of military technological advancement accelerates each year. Weapons that seemed impossible a decade ago now deploy operationally across global conflict zones. Artificial intelligence integration promises even more dramatic capabilities, with autonomous systems beginning to make targeting decisions without human oversight. Naval aviation crews witness this evolution firsthand as new weapons arrive faster than training programs can adapt. Missiles with ranges exceeding 200 miles allow single aircraft to engage multiple targets simultaneously. Electronic warfare systems can disable entire enemy communication networks from hundreds of miles away. The destructive potential concentrated on modern carrier decks equals the firepower of entire armies from previous wars. This exponential growth in military capability creates paradoxical situations where even the operators express unease about their tools. Veteran pilots describe weapons so advanced that they fundamentally alter the nature of aerial combat. Young ordnance crews handle munitions powerful enough to trigger international incidents with single targeting mistakes. The psychological impact extends beyond military personnel to civilian populations worldwide. Nations without access to fifth-generation fighters face obsolete air forces overnight. Regional power balances shift dramatically as advanced weapon systems concentrate in the hands of technological superpowers. International observers watch these developments with mounting anxiety, recognizing that weapons designed for deterrence may eventually prove too tempting to leave unused. The hope remains that such devastating capabilities will never face full operational deployment, but history suggests otherwise. The United States Navy just revealed its newly built deadly vessel. Beginning with the creation of the USS Gerald R. Ford, the U.S. has set the pace for the production of powerful warships, and this nation just unveiled another sea beast. With a mind-boggling price tag of $550 million, this vessel is a perfect combination of stealth, power, and lethality, dominating the sea with its advanced technology. Why is this new vessel so unique? What is the capability and features of this new sea beast? Join us as we reveal the new deadly ship that the United States is building. The United States is known to stop at nothing regarding the production of deadly military arsenals, including its warships. Renowned for the development of the largest ship ever, this nation has set a higher standard, and just as you imagine, this standard is not one that is easily attained. Not many nations can invest $550 million into the development of ships. Let's begin with the features of one of the most feared United States aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald R. Ford. The warship stands out not only as the largest aircraft carrier ever built, but also as the most advanced and powerful. Commissioned in July 2017, this ship features advanced technologies such as electromagnetic catapults, modern weapons elevators, and advanced radar systems, all designed to provide the U.S. Navy with unmatched strategic dominance. These innovations represent a significant progress from the older Nimitz-class carriers, which were developed in 1968 and have been in service for over 50 years. In the name of advanced technologies, this USS Gerald R. Ford, named after the 38th President of the United States, boasts numerous advanced features. It has dual-band radar combining X-band and S-band phased arrays for superior tracking and targeting capabilities in various mission-critical environments. Its electromagnetic aircraft launch system uses an electric motor to better control acceleration, reducing stress on aircraft and pilots while providing more flexibility in wind conditions during takeoff. In terms of armaments, this warship is equipped with surface-to-air missiles, including 2 Mark 29 launchers with 8 Evolved Sea Sparrow missiles each, and 2 Mark 49 launchers with 21 rolling airframe missiles each. Additionally, it features 3 phalanx CIWs, 4 25mm machine gun systems, and 4 50 caliber machine guns for robust self-defense. One of the newest systems on the CVN-78 is the Advanced Arresting Gear, which uses electromagnets instead of hydraulics to slow and stop landing aircraft. This system is more flexible, safe, reliable, and requires less maintenance and fewer crew members compared to the older hydraulic systems, making it suitable for both manned and unmanned aircraft. The USS Gerald R. Ford is powered by 2 A-1B nuclear reactors, which are smaller, simpler, require fewer crew members, and produce significantly more power than the Nimitz-class A-4W reactors. This increased power generation supports the ship's advanced systems, and leaves room for future technological upgrades, ensuring the carrier remains at the forefront of naval warfare well into the 22nd century. The ship also has stealth features to reduce radar visibility and can carry up to 90 aircraft, including the Boeing F/A-18EF Super Hornet, Boeing EA-18G Growler, Grumman C-2 Greyhound, Northrop Grumman E-2 Hawkeye, Lockheed Martin F-35C, Lightning II, Sikorsky SH-60 Seahawk helicopters, and unmanned combat aerial vehicles. Its design allows for the handling of up to 160 flights per day over extended periods, with a maximum capacity of 270 flights per day. The Gerald R. Ford-class carriers are being built to replace the outdated Nimitz class. This new class includes the USS John F. Kennedy, or CVN-79, set to be commissioned in 2025, the USS Enterprise, or CVN-80, scheduled for 2028, the USS Doris Miller, or CVN-81, planned for 2033, and the CVN-82, expected in 2036. These ships are named in accordance with the historical U.S. Navy ship naming conventions set by Congress in 1862, with further clarifications by President Theodore Roosevelt in 1907. Now to the United States Navy's newest warship, the USS Zumwalt, or DDG-1000. This warship is the largest and most technologically advanced surface combatant in the world. Also, it is the lead ship of a class of next-generation multi-mission destroyers designed to strengthen naval power from the sea. These ships feature a state-of-the-art electric propulsion system, a wave-piercing tumble-home hull, stealth design, and the latest warfighting technology and weaponry. This destroyer can perform a mind-blowing range of deterrence, power projection, sea control, and command and control missions while maintaining its stealth, making it difficult to detect whether close to shore or far out at sea. These warships possess stealth, size, power, survivability systems, and computing capacity that provide the Navy with the ability to meet maritime missions at sea now, as well as incorporate new technologies to meet emerging security environments. The advanced technologies of the DDG-1000 class create versatility, allowing for sustained operations in littoral zones and land attacks, supporting special operations forces, and operating as an integral part of joint and combined expeditionary forces. Its multi-mission design and littoral capabilities make it a globally deployable asset to the fleet and any combatant command. The construction on this formidable warship began in February 2009, with the ship launching on October 29, 2013. The ship is currently conducting hull, mechanical, and electrical tests and trials, followed by a period for combat and mission system equipment installation, activation, and testing. DDG-1001 was named Michael Mansour in October 2008 by then Secretary of the Navy Donald Winter, in honor of Petty Officer Second Class Michael Mansour. A Navy SEAL posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor for his heroic actions in Ramadi, Iraq on September 29, 2009. The fabrication for DDG-1001 started in October 2009, and in July 2014, Huntington Ingalls Industries delivered the DDG-1001 composite deckhouse to the Navy. In April 2012, DDG-1002 was named Lyndon B. Johnson by Secretary of the Navy Ray Mabuse, honoring the nation's 36th president and continuing the tradition of naming ships after presidents. Fabrication for DDG-1002 began on April 4, 2012. DDG-1000 is the first United States Navy surface combatant to employ an innovative and highly survivable integrated power system. This system provides power to propulsion, ship service, and combat system loads from the same gas turbine prime movers, allowing significant energy savings and enabling future high-energy weapons and sensors. The wave-piercing tumble-home ship design significantly reduces cross-section and acoustic output, making the ship harder to detect by enemies. The design also allows for optimal manning with a standard crew size of 175 sailors and an air detachment of 28, thereby decreasing life cycle operations and support costs. This warship employs active and passive sensors and a multi-function radar capable of conducting area air surveillance, including overland throughout the difficult sea-land interface. Each ship features two advanced gun systems firing long-range land attack projectiles that reach up to 63 nautical miles, providing a threefold range improvement in naval surface fires coverage. The company, General Dynamics Bath Iron Works, also known as BIW, is responsible for the design, construction, integration, testing, and delivery of the DDG-1000 class and DDG-1002 steel deckhouse, hangar, and aft peripheral vertical launch system, while Huntington Ingalls Industries handles the fabrication of the composite deckhouse, helo hangar, and aft PVLS for DDG-1000 and DDG-1001. Another formidable company, Raytheon, is responsible for software development and integration, with BAE providing the AGS and LRLAP PUO ships, and its industry partners work diligently to mature the ship's design and ready industrial facilities, ensuring this advanced surface combatant is built on cost and on schedule. At 85% complete, the DDG-1000 design was more mature at the start of fabrication than any lead surface combatant in history. Other nations around the world are making progressive strides in developing ships, but the question is, can they ever be in the same class with the United States' most formidable sea beasts? Let's begin with the Russian aircraft carrier. The Admiral Flota Sovetskogo Soyuza Kuznetsov stands as a formidable symbol of Russian naval power. This aircraft carrier, classified in Russia as a heavy aircraft cruiser, serves as the flagship of the Russian Navy. It was constructed by the Black Sea Shipyard and is also the sole producer of the Soviet aircraft carrier. This formidable aircraft was launched in 1985 and became fully operational in 1995. Initially named Riga, it was launched as Leonid Brezhnev, embarked on sea trials as Tbilisi, and ultimately received its current name in honor of Admiral of the Fleet of the Soviet Union, Nikolai Gerasimovich Kuznetsov. Unfortunately, this ship faces several challenges. Currently undergoing repairs, this carrier is significantly less advanced than the USS Gerald R. Ford. It uses steam turbines for propulsion and features a ski jump ramp for aircraft takeoff, which is less efficient than the electromagnetic catapults on the Gerald R. Ford. The Kuznetsov has been plagued by mechanical issues, including a fire in 2019, and has spent much of the past decade in dry dock. Russia's plans for a new aircraft carrier, Project 23,000E, or Storm, is a ship that could potentially rival the Gerald R. Ford. The Storm class is proposed to weigh around 90,000 to 100,000 tons, with a length of approximately 330 meters and a width of 40 meters. This new ship would be powered by a nuclear reactor and feature advanced systems, including electromagnetic catapults and anti-aircraft defenses. However, as of 2020, this project has not been approved, and it remains uncertain if it will be prioritized given the significant financial investment required. Moving on to China's Type 094 submarine. There are 6 of these submarines in the Chinese growing fleet, and each of them is equipped with 12 missile launchers and a total of 72 missiles. As part of China's nuclear defense, at least 4 of these submarines, possibly all, are based on Hainan Island in the South China Sea and regularly patrol there. To protect its submarines from foreign anti-submarine forces, China plans to use the South China Sea as a safe zone for its submarines. The submarine's main designer was Zhang Zhenlin, and its design is likely based on or was inspired by the Type 093 nuclear-powered attack submarine. A Type 094 was seen in satellite photos in late 2006 at the Xiaopingdao submarine base. The first one was commissioned in 2007, and 6 were in service by 2020. They began nuclear deterrence patrols in December 2015. According to the U.S. Department of Defense, the Type 094 is China's first credible sea-based nuclear deterrent. Initially, they were armed with 12 JL-2 missiles, each with a single warhead, and were capable of reaching parts of Alaska from near China. By late 2022, the submarines were equipped with JL-3 missiles, which can reach the continental United States from the South China Sea with reported ranges of over 10,000 kilometers. Let's delve into the capabilities of this missile. The Zhulong-2, also known as the JL-2, is a submarine-launched ballistic missile with a range of approximately 4,464 miles, as reported by the Congressional Research Service. This range enables Chinese submarines to target parts of Alaska from locations near China, However, to strike the east coast of the United States, these submarines would need to venture into waters east of Hawaii. The situation changed significantly with the introduction of the JL-3, a more advanced and longer-range missile now equipped on Chinese submarines. The JL-3, according to some American press sources, may have a range exceeding 6,200 miles and is designed with the potential to extend its range if necessary. This advancement allows China to potentially target the United States from the relative safety of the South China Sea. If Chinese submarines were to patrol the Bay of Bohai, they could threaten most of North and South Dakota, as well as Montana, Oregon, Washington, Nevada, Utah, and California. Targeting the rest of the United States would require Chinese submarines to move beyond Japan and Taiwan into the Western Pacific, where they would be vulnerable to anti-submarine warfare forces, as Chinese air and naval forces couldn't provide adequate protection. Despite these advancements, Chinese missile submarines are still noisier compared to their American counterparts, making solo operations challenging. A Chinese researcher in 2004 took note of the fact that the submarine's noise level was around 120 decibels, comparable to the Los Angeles-class submarine. In 2009, the United States Navy's Office of Naval Intelligence reported that the Type 094 was noisier than Soviet-Russian submarines from the late 1980s. In 2015, Australian researchers Brendan Thomas Noon and Rory Medcalf observed that the noise and the range of the JL-2 missiles limited its effectiveness for striking the United States, but not India. China has not officially announced the commissioning of the JL-3 missiles. This information comes from American sources and estimates. Chinese military experts argue that the development of these missiles is a defensive measure against nuclear threats. They believe that the United States military speculation is based on misleading information that is intended to justify increasing the U.S. defense budget and military presence in the Asia-Pacific region, particularly in light of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, by exaggerating China's routine defense advancements. It's important to note that the United States, Russia, and China are not the only nations in the game of developing powerful sea beasts. With that, let's move on to the big whale from Japan. The 29 SS, or Taigi, is the newest addition to Japan's military collection. This formidable carrier boasts 7 other submarines in its fleet, and surprisingly, the fleets are named after a large fish that dominate the large expanse of water bodies. For instance, the second boat, which is referred to as Hakugo, as in the white whale. Then there is the third fleet, which is also named after the fastest whale, Jingai. This non-nuclear submarine was accepted into the Navy on the 9th of March, 2022. It is a diesel-electric submarine of a new type, and also the first in its series. If you are wondering why Japan's submarine is not a nuclear weapon, or if it has any nuclear weapons in its possession, your curiosity has been rightly piqued. This new carrier boasts a modern system and a combination of ideas that were previously considered obsolete. While that sounds weird and would make you wonder why Japan has resorted to something archaic, this obsolete idea is the use of an air-dependent Stirling engine. Stirling engine is an external combustion engine and is very different from the internal combustion engine that can be found in other renowned submarines. The difference in these engines is that the working body is in the cylinder and does not require fuel, but instead receives heat from outside, which makes it expand and push the cylinder piston. The anaerobic Stirling engine allows more freedom of action for the submarine than the diesel-electric scheme. But such an engine has one major disadvantage. It makes more noise, and this feature has reduced its ability to be stealthy. The Taigi-class submarines have a similar hull design to the Soryu class, but are a bit heavier by 100 tons. They are more advanced with newer gear like sonar systems and a snorkel power generation system. They'll also use lithium-ion batteries like the JS Oryu and JS Toryu submarines. Plus, they'll use the Type 18 torpedo, an upgraded version of the Type 89 torpedo. These lithium-ion batteries are superior to traditional and regular lead-acid batteries. However, these batteries come with a disadvantage. First of all, it is extremely expensive to purchase, and also, these batteries emit heat during charging and discharging, and in the event of a violation of operating modes, it can emit toxic vapor. All this places special demands on the equipment of battery pits, on which the survivability and stability of the ship and the lives of its crew depend. The new Taizé submarine is similar to the two previous diesel-electric submarines of the Soryu type in its external shape and layout, but has a larger displace. The last sea beast we would be exploring is from Israel. The Sa'ar 6 class corvettes are an irreplaceable addition to Israel's naval fleet. With a full load displacement of nearly 1 ton and a length of 90 meters, these corvettes are a force to be reckoned with in naval vessels. These corvettes have advanced weaponry and systems, making them well-suited for various mission profiles. Their armament includes the impressive Otto Melara 76mm main gun, 2 Typhoon weapon stations, 16 vertical launch cells designed for Barak 8 surface-to-air missiles, and 40 cells allocated for the Sea Dome point defense system. These capabilities provide robust air defense and missile interception capabilities. To bolster their naval warfare capabilities, the corvettes are armed with 16 Gabriel 5 anti-ship missiles, known for their precision and range. Additionally, the corvettes feature the EL/M2248 MF-STAR AESA radar, which enhances situational awareness and target tracking. For anti-submarine warfare, these corvettes are equipped with 2 324mm torpedo launchers, adding a vital undersea threat response capability to their arsenal. These versatile vessels also offer hangar space and a platform capable of accommodating a medium-class SH-60 type helicopter. This feature significantly enhances their maritime surveillance, reconnaissance, and anti-submarine warfare capabilities by extending their operational reach beyond the horizon. Israel welcomed the first of the Sa'ar 6 class corvettes, INS Magan, on 11 December 2020, marking a significant milestone in their naval capabilities. The second corvette, INS Oz, was officially handed over by ThyssenKrupp Marine Systems on 4 May 2021. On 27 July 2021, the Israeli Navy received the final 2 ships of the class, INS Atzmaut and INS Nitzachon. It's noteworthy that the Israeli Navy planned to further equip these vessels with radar and weapon systems upon their arrival in Israel. In a ceremonial event held in Haifa in September 2022, the 76/62 rapid-fire main gun for the first 2 ships of the Sa'ar 6 class corvettes was officially accepted. These corvettes have become an integral part of Israel's maritime defense strategy, combining sophisticated weaponry and technology in a formidable naval platform. Their versatility, firepower, and advanced systems make them valuable assets for safeguarding Israel's maritime interests and national security.
Picture a dramatic scene unfolding on the vast expanse of the ocean. Russian Navy ships cautiously navigating waters, encircled by the colossal silhouettes of U.S. aircraft carriers. The air crackles with tension, each vessel a floating fortress of military might. But in this high-stakes game of maritime chess, the unexpected lurks just beneath the surface. What unseen forces brought these giants of the sea to this tense standoff? And what extraordinary twist of fate turned this confrontation into a tale that defies imagination? Join us as we delve into the captivating tale of what happens when these titans of the sea clash and fate intervenes. The Pentagon started tracking 4 Russian warships as they crossed the Atlantic Ocean for a naval exercise. These ships carried out live fire exercises, which were meant to mimic an attack on enemy vessels. When the Russian warships entered the port of Havana, it brought back memories of the Cuban Missile Crisis in October 1962. This was a tense and dangerous standoff between the United States and the Soviet Union during the Cold War, marking the closest the 2 superpowers ever came to nuclear conflict. The Cuban Missile Crisis was unique in many ways. It involved careful calculations, mistakes, direct and secret communications, and misunderstandings between the 2 nations. This high-stakes drama mostly unfolded at the highest levels of government, with President Kennedy and Soviet leader Khrushchev directly involved, while the usual foreign policy bureaucracies played a minimal role. After the failed Bay of Pigs invasion, where the U.S. tried to overthrow Fidel Castro's regime, the Kennedy administration was planning Operation Mongoose to further disrupt Cuba. In July 1962, Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev secretly agreed with Cuban Premier Fidel Castro to place Soviet nuclear missiles in Cuba as a deterrent against future U.S. invasion attempts. Construction of these missile sites began in late summer, but U.S. intelligence soon spotted a general buildup of Soviet arms in Cuba, including IL-28 bombers, during routine surveillance flights. On September 4, 1962, President Kennedy publicly warned against the introduction of offensive weapons into Cuba. Despite this warning, on October 14th, a U.S. U-2 spy plane took photos clearly showing the construction of medium-range and intermediate-range ballistic missile sites in Cuba. These images were processed and presented to the White House the next day, triggering the Cuban Missile Crisis. President Kennedy called together his closest advisors to decide on a course of action. Some advisors, including all the Joint Chiefs of Staff, pushed for an airstrike to destroy the missiles, followed by an invasion of Cuba. Others favored issuing strong warnings to Cuba and the Soviet Union. Kennedy chose a middle path. On October 22nd, he ordered a naval quarantine of Cuba. The term quarantine was used instead of blockade to avoid the legal implications of a state of war and to gain support from the Organization of American States. That same day, Kennedy sent a letter to Khrushchev, declaring that the U.S. would not allow offensive weapons to be delivered to Cuba and demanding the dismantling of the missile sites. This letter marked the beginning of a series of direct and indirect communications between the White House and the Kremlin. Kennedy also addressed the nation on television, informing the public about the situation in Cuba, his decision to enforce a quarantine, and the potential global consequences if the crisis escalated. His message was stern and echoed the Monroe Doctrine, warning that any nuclear missile launched from Cuba against any nation in the Western Hemisphere would be considered an attack by the Soviet Union, requiring a full retaliatory response. Now, in a bold statement, Vladimir Putin has issued a stark warning to the United States, highlighting the significant threat posed by Russia's vast nuclear arsenal. He emphasized that Russian warships have come dangerously close to what he calls the point of no returns, a term underscoring the gravity of the situation. According to Putin, Western efforts to inflict a strategic defeat on Russia demonstrate a dangerous level of recklessness. This declaration is particularly noteworthy as it coincided with a meeting of G7 leaders, including President Biden, in Italy. The agenda included plans to provide Ukraine with financial aid using confiscated Russian assets, a move that has infuriated Putin. He described this action as theft and vowed that the Western states would face repercussions. Ironically, experts argue that Russia doesn't even have a proper fleet. Just 2 years ago, no one believed Ukraine could withstand Russia's military power. Yet here we are in 2024, with Ukraine's fierce resistance proving all the skeptics wrong. Despite being significantly outmatched, Ukraine has managed to defend its sovereignty and push back against Russian forces, showcasing extraordinary courage against overwhelming odds. Russian naval forces were among the most formidable challenges Ukraine faced. However, through innovative strategies, resourcefulness, and international assistance, Ukraine has effectively challenged Russian naval dominance in the Black Sea and the Sea of Azov. Saying that Ukraine contested Russia's naval dominance might even be an understatement considering recent developments. Need a hint? On March 22, 2022, a Russian Raptor-class vessel was hit by a Ukrainian anti-tank guided missile, causing the high-speed coastal patrol boat to be swiftly towed away. On March 24, 2022, an Alligator-class landing ship called Saratov, docked in Berdyansk, Ukraine, caught fire. The Ukrainian Navy claimed responsibility, reporting the attack was carried out using short-range OTR-21 Tochka tactical ballistic missiles. Russia confirmed the ship was towed from the area, but gave no details about the cause of the fire. Notably, the Russian Navy had only 3 of these Cold War-era ships in active service, so this successful targeting represented a significant blow to Russia's naval capabilities. In the following days, 2 other Russian ships, the Tsezar Kunikov and the Novocherkassk, docked nearby, also fled the area under similar circumstances, fire and smoke engulfing their decks. On April 13, 2022, one of Ukraine's biggest wins in the naval theater occurred: the sinking of the Slava-class guided missile cruiser Moskva, the flagship of Russia's Black Sea Fleet. The Moskva, leading the naval assault during Russia's invasion of Ukraine, played a crucial role in the amphibious assault on Snake Island. As one of the most powerful and iconic warships in the region, its destruction was a major blow to Russia. The honor of sinking the Moskva went to 2 Neptune anti-ship missiles launched from the Crimean coast. After a massive explosion and subsequent fire, the Moskva sank a day later while being towed away, taking at least 18 sailors down with it. Some reports suggest the death toll was significantly higher. The symbolic destruction of the Moskva, named after Russia's capital, was a huge morale boost for Ukraine. Early May 2022 brought no relief to the Russian Navy. The Ukrainian forces continued their relentless attacks, causing significant damage to more Russian vessels, further challenging Russia's naval presence in the region. Ukrainian Bayraktar TB2 drones took out 4 more Raptor-class patrol boats, significantly impacting the Russian fleet, which only had about 16 of these boats to begin with. This means Ukraine eliminated over 30% of Russia's Raptors in just over a month. In the second attack, 3 boats were completely destroyed, while the 4th was damaged and towed to Sevastopol for repairs. Additionally, a BK-16 high-speed assault boat, one of only 12 in Russia's arsenal, sank near Snake Island. On May 7, 2022, the Bayraktar TB2 drones continued their successful campaign in the Black Sea by damaging a Cerna-class landing craft stationed on Snake Island. Then, on June 17, 2022, the Bayan M-class corvette Veliki Ustyug, which had previously participated in Russia's invasion of Ukraine, was seen being towed away across the Volga River in a dire state. This corvette, part of Russia's naval modernization efforts, was one of 20 in service and is now rendered inoperable by Ukraine. That same day, Ukraine also reported sinking the Russian rescue tug Vasily Bek, which was built to tow distressed ships, supply water and electricity to other vessels, evacuate injured personnel, and fight fires at sea. The Vasily Bek was hit by 2 Harpoon missiles provided by Denmark. On October 29, 2022, Ukraine's use of unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, struck again, this time targeting the Natya-class minesweeper Ivan Golubets in Sevastopol and damaging the Soviet-era vessel. However, the most significant strike that day was against the Admiral Grigorovich-class frigate Admiral Makarov. This vessel, which had become the new flagship of the Black Sea Fleet after the Moskva's sinking, was hit by at least 1 drone, reportedly disabling its radar. Admiral Makarov had also played a role in the invasion, launching cruise missiles at a Ukrainian oil refinery and fuel depots in Odessa, terrorizing the local population. Although the Russian Navy claimed the damage was minor, the frigate was out of commission until August 2023, leaving one of Russia's most advanced ships inactive for 10 months. A significant victory for Ukraine. On August 4, 2023, a coordinated effort between the Security Service of Ukraine and the Ukrainian Navy dealt a significant blow to the Russian Navy near the port of Novorossiysk, approximately 260 miles east of Sevastopol. The target was the Rapucha-class landing ship named Olenogorsky Gornyak, one of Russia's 15 most critical vessels of this type, on loan from the Northern Fleet at the time. Although the Olenogorsky Gornyak wasn't sunk, it suffered severe damage that prompted a notable shift in naval operations. Following the attack, Ukrainian reports indicated Russian ships leaving the port and dispersing throughout the Black Sea. Moving forward to September 13, 2023, Ukraine launched a daring nighttime raid on Sevastopol. Sukhoi Su-24 supersonic bombers were instrumental in targeting 2 significant Russian vessels: the improved Kilo-class attack submarine Rostov-na-Donu and another Rapucha-class landing ship named Minsk. Both ships were struck by Storm Shadow missiles, resulting in the visible destruction of Minsk and rendering Rostov-na-Donu irreparably damaged, despite Russian intentions to return them to full operational status. Complicating matters further, the Ukrainian raid also inflicted substantial damage on Sevastopol's dry dock repair facilities, hindering Russia's ability to swiftly repair its naval assets. The same attack on September 13th saw the sinking of a Tunets-class patrol boat. On September 24, 2023, Ukraine resumed its use of naval drones, damaging the Project 22160 patrol ship Sergei Kotov. Although this attack didn't sink the ship, Ukraine achieved success on March 5, 2024, when Magurafev 5 maritime drones finally sank Sergei Kotov off the Crimean coast, marking the third notable sinking by Ukraine in 2024. February 2024 introduced another grim chapter in the Russo-Ukrainian naval conflict, as evidenced on February 1, 2024, when one of Russia's Tarantul-class corvettes, Ivanovets, was reportedly sunk in Donuslav, Crimea, by Magurafev 5 maritime drones. The ship's magazine detonated as it sank, resulting in a dramatic series of explosions, a fitting end for the Ivanovets. Continuing this trend, on February 14, 2024, Ukraine successfully targeted and finished off another vessel previously damaged in March 2022, further asserting its naval prowess in the ongoing conflict. The fate of the large Ropucha I-class landing ship Cesar Kunikov mirrored that of its counterpart, Novocherkassk, but with confirmation from Russian sources due to Ukrainian footage verifying its sinking. The grainy and black and white video depicts a Magura V-5 drone zipping swiftly across nighttime waters, resembling an elegant speedboat. In a dramatic showdown similar to David and Goliath, this small drone strikes the 370-foot-long behemoth, triggering a spectacular explosion. The footage captures Cesar Kunikov listing to its side before descending into the depths, carrying approximately 70 crew members. The aftermath of this incident was profound. Putin dismissed Black Sea Fleet Commander Admiral Viktor Sokolov, who was replaced promptly by Vice Admiral Sergei Pinchuk. This move underscored the severity of Ukraine's successful attacks on the Black Sea Fleet. A month later, Admiral Nikolai Yevmenov, Commander-in-Chief of the Russian Navy, also faced replacement, highlighting the strategic shakeup in response to Ukrainian military actions. Fast forward to March 23, 2024, when a Ukrainian missile strike damaged the Yuri Ivanov-class intelligence ship Ivan Kurs during an assault on Sevastopol. This ship had previously been targeted by Ukrainian drones in May 2023, marking a sustained campaign against it. Ivan Kurs plays a critical role for Russian forces, equipped with radar warning receivers and electronic surveillance devices, crucial for locating Ukrainian radars and missile installations along the Black Sea coast. Protecting this equipment is pivotal for Ukraine to maintain its defensive capabilities against Russian aerial and naval threats. The Kommuna, the Russian Navy's oldest operational ship, became the target on April 21, 2024, struck by an anti-ship missile in Sevastopol, though the extent of the damage remains undisclosed. Continuing their effective use, on May 6, 2024, Magurafev 5 naval drones destroyed a Mangust-class patrol boat, valued at $3 million, used for search and rescue operations and countering subversive activities. When you add up all these attacks, it's evident why reports are celebrating the Ukrainian forces for taking down an impressive 25% of Russian ships in the Black Sea. Not bad for a country that doesn't even have a navy, right? There's even talk that Russian vessels are abandoning the Black Sea altogether, sparking hope that Ukraine might reclaim Crimea after a decade. Ukrainian Captain Dmytro Pletenchuk points out that only one loser missile ship remains in the Black Sea now. These remarkable achievements stem from Ukraine's bold and innovative asymmetric warfare tactics against a stronger but risk-averse and unimaginative opponent. Ukraine continues to devise new methods to sink Russian ships, and clearly, these methods have proven highly effective. But can Russia simply replace the ships Ukraine destroys? Historically known for its robust military-industrial complex and vast resources, Russia's situation has changed dramatically since the invasion of Ukraine. The country has mobilized fully, politically, industrially, and militarily, at a great, both figurative and literal, cost. This mobilization has drained resources that the Kremlin cannot easily replenish. Moreover, each naval vessel requires significant time and investment, both of which Russia is rapidly depleting. Even basic military supplies like shells and ammunition are being used up faster than they can be replaced. Adding to these challenges, Russian shipbuilders are facing shortages of critical engine parts, severely limiting their ability to produce new ships. Could Russia relocate existing ships from other fleets to fill the gaps? In theory, yes. However, in practice, this plan faces a major hurdle: Turkey. The dynamics in the Black Sea have shifted dramatically due to the Ukraine conflict, giving Turkey considerable leverage in the region. Under Article 19 of the Montreux Convention, which governs passage through the Bosporus and Dardanelles Straits, Turkey has closed these crucial waterways to military vessels not based in the Black Sea. This effectively blocks other Russian fleets from coming to the aid of the Black Sea Fleet in times of need. US officials have commended Turkey's decision, seeing it as a significant boost to Ukraine's security. However, there remains a lingering question. How has the United States responded to the presence of Russian vessels near Havana? Despite initially downplaying any potential threat posed by these ships as they approached, the US has taken proactive measures. This was highlighted by the United States Naval Institute, USNI, on June 11, 2024, which reported on Russia's missile tests in the Atlantic. According to USNI, the US has stationed ship spotters along its coast to closely monitor Russian activities. Additionally, the US has dispatched several of its ships, including 3 guided missile destroyers, to survey the Russian fleet. Complementing these efforts is the deployment of a P-8A Poseidon anti-submarine aircraft, specifically tasked with countering the presence of the Kazan nuclear submarine. This demonstrates a robust response aimed at matching and neutralizing any potential threats should the Russian ships deviate from their stated training objectives. A day after the USNI report, the UK's Daily Mail noted that American ships positioned themselves just off the US coastline as the Russian flotilla approached within 25 miles of Florida. The Royal Canadian Navy also joined in by deploying the HMCS Ville de Quebec, a Halifax-class frigate, to support the monitoring operation alongside the US. This coordinated effort underscores America's vigilance in closely monitoring the situation. But what if a worst-case scenario unfolds? What if Russia opts to launch an attack or engage in aggressive actions during its naval exercises? To answer these concerns, we must examine both the capabilities of Russia's vessels and the resources deployed by the United States in response. Among Russia's flotilla, the rescue tug and fleet oil tanker play supportive roles, but lack the firepower for direct naval combat. The focal points for potential conflict would likely be the Admiral Gorshkov and the Kazan submarine. The Admiral Gorshkov, the lead vessel of Russia's new Gorshkov-class multi-role frigates, commenced construction in 2005. It represents Russia's ambitious effort to modernize its naval capabilities amid America's significantly superior navy. Measuring approximately 426 feet and crewed by 200 personnel, the Admiral Gorshkov boasts formidable weaponry. Equipped with 3D air search radars, it can detect incoming aircraft and potentially intercept anti-ship missiles. Its arsenal includes a 130mm gun mount and a 30mm close-in weapon system, designed to defend against aerial threats with precision. Speaking of missiles, Admiral Gorshkov is armed with 8 of Russia's SS-NX-26 Yakhont cruise missiles, specialized for ship-to-ship combat against any type of naval surface vessel. These missiles are highly potent, boasting a range of 186 miles and offering a choice between a 440-pound explosive warhead or a more powerful 551-pound semi-armor-piercing warhead. These capabilities make them formidable against smaller ships, especially enhanced by improvements made in 2002 with imaging infrared and active radar seekers, ensuring high accuracy. What's more, these missiles achieve speeds up to Mach 2.2, making them extremely difficult to intercept. But that's not all. The Admiral Gorshkov is also equipped with the Medvedka II anti-submarine warfare system, 21-inch torpedo tubes, and the Hurricane surface-to-air missile defense system. Not to mention its BrahMos supersonic cruise missiles, capable of delivering a 660-pound warhead over distances up to 180 miles. Additionally, there's the Zircon anti-ship cruise missile, a hypersonic weapon reportedly capable of flying at 9 times the speed of sound, with a range of about 620 miles and advanced radar seekers. These impressive armaments highlight Admiral Gorshkov's capabilities on paper, showcasing some of Russia's most advanced naval technologies. But how would the U.S. destroyers, such as the USS Donald Cook reportedly monitoring Gorshkov, fare in a direct confrontation? The USS Donald Cook, commissioned in 1998, measures 505 feet in length, making it larger than the Admiral Gorshkov. It accommodates a larger crew of 330 enlisted sailors and up to 26 officers at full capacity. While specifics on which destroyers are deployed were not fully disclosed by USNI, the presence of USS Donald Cook, as reported by the Daily Mail, suggests a robust American response. In a head-to-head scenario, the odds slightly favor the USS Donald Cook due to its size and potentially greater firepower. However, the outcome of any naval engagement would depend on numerous factors, including tactics, crew training, and the operational context in which such a confrontation might occur. The Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyer is a formidable warship, equipped with an array of weaponry that would make it a significant threat to Admiral Gorshkov. At its heart is the Mk-41 vertical launching system, capable of deploying a variety of missiles suitable for any combat scenario: anti-aircraft, anti-submarine, anti-surface, and ballistic missiles. This versatility allows the destroyer to effectively counter both the Admiral Gorshkov and the Kazan submarine. In terms of its missile arsenal, the USS Donald Cook carries vertical launch anti-submarine rocket missiles, each with a range of 10 miles and a high explosive warhead weighing nearly 97 pounds. Additionally, it is equipped with Tomahawk and Harpoon missiles. The Harpoon missiles, which would likely be used against Admiral Gorshkov, can travel up to 149 miles and carry a substantial payload of 493 pounds. Although not as fast as the hypersonic missiles on Admiral Gorshkov, these missiles are powerful and can be launched in multiple salvos. Further enhancing its capabilities, the USS Donald Cook is armed with a Mk-45 5-inch lightweight gun, Mk-46 torpedoes, two 25mm machine guns, and the Phalanx close-in weapon system for defense against incoming threats. While Admiral Gorshkov boasts the Zircon hypersonic missile, capable of incredible speeds that challenge traditional defenses, the presence of 3 U.S. destroyers monitoring the Russian flotilla ensures redundancy and overwhelming force if needed. Even if one destroyer were to be overwhelmed, the others could swiftly respond, demonstrating the U.S.'s capability to project power effectively. Moving to the Kazan submarine, also known as the Yasin-M, represents a significant leap in Russia's submarine technology. As the second vessel in Russia's Yasin class, introduced in 2009, it features numerous upgrades that distinguish it as a leading asset in Russia's submarine fleet. The Royal United Services Institute describes it as the future of Russia's submarine force, highlighting its advanced capabilities aimed at showcasing Russia's naval prowess to the United States. The Kazan is a nuclear-powered cruise missile submarine capable of launching a variety of anti-ship and land attack missiles. These include the 3 M22 Zircon hypersonic missile, similar to that of Admiral Gorshkov, and the UKSK vertical launch system, equipped with 8 SM-346 modules. Each module can house significant armaments, such as 4 P-800 Onyx anti-ship missiles or 5 3 M54-1 caliber missiles, both renowned for their destructive capabilities. The P-800 missiles are variations of the SS NX-26 Yakhant cruise missiles, boasting similar range and firepower capabilities. On the other hand, the 3 M54-1 caliber, an anti-ship missile, can travel up to 186 miles and carries a formidable 3 461-pound warhead. Complementing these armaments are 10 533mm torpedo tubes for UGST-M wire-guided torpedoes, along with 6 324mm torpedo launchers, enhancing the submarine's defensive capabilities. The Kazan submarine, powered by a 4th-generation KTP-6 nuclear reactor, is renowned for its stealth, believed to be the quietest in the Russian fleet. Teamed with Admiral Gorshkov, it represents a potent combination in Putin's strategy to showcase Russia's naval modernization efforts. However, could the Kazan withstand an assault from the ships and aircraft deployed by the US to monitor Russia's flotilla? The odds seem slim. The USS Donald Cook, alongside other destroyers, is equipped with anti-submarine defense systems that could effectively counter the Kazan's capabilities. Even if the Kazan were to successfully strike one destroyer, launching any missiles could expose its position to subsequent attacks from other US naval assets. Consider the P-8A Poseidon, officially a maritime patrol and reconnaissance aircraft, but also proficient in anti-submarine warfare. With a crew of 9, it cruises at speeds around 560 miles per hour, enabling it to cover vast ocean areas. Enhanced by advanced surveillance systems like the MX-20 HD sensor turrets and AN/APY-10 maritime radar, the P-8A excels in detecting submarines. Its arsenal includes free-fall bombs, depth charges, air-to-surface missiles, and the Mk-54 torpedo, ideal for engaging both surface vessels and submarines. Even operating independently, the P-8A poses a significant threat to Kazan and Admiral Gorshkov. Coupled with the 3 US destroyers, each capable of neutralizing submarines and frigates, the P-8A contributes to both reconnaissance and offensive support roles. This formidable naval presence underscores the United States' preparedness to counter any potential threats posed by Russia's maneuvers near its coast. Perhaps this explains Major Dietz's assertion that the Russian ships do not pose a direct threat to the United States. While on the surface, it acknowledges routine military exercises, it also subtly asserts the US Navy's supremacy over Russian naval capabilities. Yet, Putin's objectives extend beyond power projection. Forging stronger ties with Cuba and Venezuela through joint naval exercises sends a clear message to the US about Russia's influence in its own hemisphere. Russia's historical ties with Cuba, despite periodic strains since the Soviet era, remain robust, as evidenced by recent high-level meetings aimed at enhancing economic and energy cooperation. Positioned just over 200 miles from Miami, Cuba's proximity underscores its strategic importance in Russia's geopolitical maneuvers. The joint naval exercises not only signify military collaboration, but also signal to the US that Russia has a dependable ally close to its borders, capable of hosting and supporting Russian naval operations. What do you anticipate the result would be if the Russian and American navies were to confront each other? Let us know your opinion in the comments below.